Hello and welcome to the NIL Edge, the show where the people shaping the future of name, image, and likeness talk about how they're doing it, what's working, and how they're looking to improve NIL offerings for student athletes. If you're inside an athletic department, a brand trying to navigate smarter athlete-first partnerships, a student athlete, or the parent of a student athlete, this is the space for you. Each episode, we talk to NIL directors, brand leaders, and other innovators pushing the NIL conversation forward. Our goal is to share success stories, equip you with ideas, and create a trusted space for NIL strategy, education, and alignment. The show is produced in partnership with NIL Newsstand and Digital Sport by Hot Paper Lantern. I'm your host, Sterling Randle. I come from the world of strategic communications and public relations. Before that, I worked in collegiate athletic departments as an SID, so I've seen firsthand how critical communications, compliance, and brand building play a role in today's NIL era. Now, I work with brands and organizations at the intersection of sports and strategy, helping them navigate change, protect their reputations, and connect athletes to fans and businesses in meaningful and powerful ways. Today, I'm really excited to be joined by Haneen Rashwan of Baylor University. Without further ado, let's do it. We are so excited to be joined by Haneen Rashwan, who is the Director of NIL Administration at Baylor. She brings a lot of experience from her previous roles at other Big 12 schools before landing in Waco. She leads student athlete branding, education, and strategic NIL initiatives that bridge institutional goals and student athlete empowerment. Haneen, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. We should have planned this a little bit better. Since I'm in Dallas and you're in Waco, we could have had this at like a Buc-ee's or something.
Oh, that would have been so sick. I probably would have gotten distracted quite a bit. Buc-ee's is my kryptonite since moving to Texas. The hype is very much real. We need one in Oklahoma. So Buc-ee's, if you're listening, please expand to Oklahoma. It's not fair to be coming to Texas all the time when I need my beaver nuggets. But hey, now I have one right there. So I'm set on beaver nuggets as long as I'm in Texas.
Haneen and Buc-ee's NIL deal in the workings. We'll get that started.
Yeah. That'd be awesome.
You mentioned it a little bit already. Tell us a little bit about previously being in Oklahoma. Tell us about how you landed in Baylor and just your history and how you got into working in the NIL space.
So very crazy story. So obviously NIL was passed in 2021 in July, and I was head deep into this in August of 2021. So very much from day one. And a big piece of that was our AD at Oklahoma State was very much kind of like, hey, we know this is coming. We want to be prepared. We want to be ahead of this. Keep in mind, 2021 collectives were not a thing. The dollar amounts you're seeing today were not in the picture at all. I think when we were talking about NIL back in 2021, it was truly brand partnerships and deals and just being able to work with your favorite companies. So he thought that there could be a really cool connection between the business school and our student athletes at Oklahoma State. And so we created a concept called the Brand Squad. Still till today, if you don't have a brand squad, you should. It's one of the best organizations you can create on campus, and basically it takes business students and pairs them with student athletes to help them with NIL and everything under the sun. It truly is a learning lab, not just for the students but for the student athletes, and it's a great experience. So the marketing professor that was tasked with creating this organization was a professor that I had, and she texted me one day and she was like, hey, NIL, I kind of need help figuring this out and how to structure this. Can you help me? And I just was like, okay, sure. Don't know what that is, but cool. So we created the brand squad together and eventually kind of just started to meet with the athletic department. And then they hired their first NIL director 1 year later, and he was a coach for 40 years. And one day I was actually studying abroad in Ireland, and I got a text from him being like, hey, I got your number. I heard you can help me with NIL. And I just was like, okay. Keep in mind, sports was never in the plans for me. I was totally planning to just do my master's in healthcare administration. I came from a family full of doctors, so that was the plan for me. So he had texted me and I was like, okay, when I get back to Oklahoma, then we can kind of talk and see. So started to work with him, and then just kind of fell in love with the space through all the chaos, because in 2022, that's when collectives started to ramp up. And so we were working on ours at Oklahoma State, and then the brand squad and a few of the other things that were going on. And so kind of just fell in love with the chaos, what organized chaos in my opinion now, but I kind of just fell in love with that innovative thinking out the box, kind of what are things we can do in this space. And I just fell in love with it through all the changes. So really decided that, like, okay, this might be my career path. It's seeming like it. And so decided that I would join Oklahoma State full time as their assistant director of NIL, and work kind of internally on what an NIL program is. And again, didn't really have much to fall back on because this space was fairly new. So really created kind of what an NIL program under an athletic department looks like, from education to working with coaches, and recruiting started to become a very big thing at that point. So kind of just working on a bunch of different projects and really kind of putting ourselves in the best position. Fast forward to May of 2024, I decided to make the transition to Baylor as their director of NIL, and Baylor had kind of stayed out of the space, completely different realms. So really coming into Baylor with a full clean slate of like, hey, this is program that can be built. There was, again, compared to just coming from Oklahoma State and all the different pieces we built there, just walking in with a very clean slate here. And that intrigued me. And it got kind of, again, we're called the psychos in this space little because we stay through all the mess and the chaos when other people probably wouldn't. And so for me, I was just like, oh, yay, I get to do this again, and think through all the different new problems. And so it was very intriguing to me. And I fell in love with Waco and with Baylor and have been here ever since.
So what was it like, and what were kind of some of the differences in doing NIL at a large public state school to then switching to not only a private institution, but a private religious institution?
Yeah, obviously a lot of difference in cultures. The faith mission is a very big piece to Baylor, and we embody that in everything we do, and our student athletes embody that too. So huge difference in that piece from the religious aspect, but then also your student body is different because you're a private, smaller school. Oklahoma State was a big public school, so you had access. We could create that brand squad program and be very well resourced all the time, versus I couldn't do that at Baylor. I don't have enough of a student body here compared to Oklahoma State. So huge differences between the two, but I think the biggest one is just that faith aspect tied to Baylor, and our student athletes really embody that and want that here. And so that's very unique to us, and we carry that kind of through everything we do here, and we want to stay true to ourselves and true to our mission. So we try to hold that close to everything we do.
As I was doing more research after we talked and had our intro discussion, and then after then, I was you had mentioned it. You had mentioned preparing champions for life, right? And that really stuck out to me in our pre-show conversation. And then as I was doing my research, that's all over the Baylor NIL website, right? When you land on the page, it's like, boom, that's the first thing you see. Right. What does that mean? And what does that look like?
Yeah, preparing champions for life is something we hold very close to us. It was a mission created by our athletic director here. And it basically just means while you're at Baylor, regardless of how long you're here, whether it's a year, 3, 4, however long, we want to prepare you for life. So for everything you're going to do with us, whether it's student athlete development through NIL, character formation, sports ministry, whatever it is, we're preparing you for life. We're going to give you the tools and resources that are going to extend well beyond your time at Baylor or beyond your time on the playing field, and really preparing champions for life and putting all the different tools and resources in your hands. So we hold that kind of in all of our initiatives and all of our programming, including all of our NIL pieces of just being able to prepare, again, champions for life. It's a huge thing for us, and we value that, and our student athletes love that piece from us. And so it's a huge initiative that we have here, and we carry that and hold that very close. So especially for me on the NIL side, I like to say NIL is like a little mini internship if you you take it seriously during college. So truly preparing champions for life. And that's why we hold it very close to, especially my programming, because truly the things that you can do in this space will last you a lifetime. And at Baylor, we prioritize that. And that's a big goal for me and every student athlete that I meet with. I want to make sure that they're set well beyond the playing field. So we hold that very close to us.
As I was looking more into the website as well, the one thing that I noticed is the imagery, right? It's current Baylor athletes and former Baylor athletes that are in their professional setting, right? And the other thing that I noticed, that it wasn't just football and basketball, right? There was golf, there was tennis, there was combat sports, like there was everybody. Obviously, you've only been at Baylor for a little over a year, and NIL's only been around for a few years, but have you guys gotten any feedback already on how that is helping athletes that have transitioned to professional leagues, and them being like, oh yeah, you guys really did prepare me to be a champion for life?
Yeah. I've had a few student athletes that have transferred to the pros, and some that went through the whole process and maybe didn't make it a final roster text me and be like, hey, I now have a backup plan to fall on, because they did such a good job of kind of, again, buying into the process to where they now can kind of, whatever it is, they either have a skill set or they have a connection or a network that they could call on after. I had a girl who graduated last spring and sent me a text over the summer and was like, hey, one of the companies that I did a deal with offered me an internship, and I just want to thank you for helping me find that connection. And again, she was in my office every week, emailing brands, working with different brands and companies, and one hired her. That's the cool things through NIL that our student athletes can do. Regardless if you want to play in the pros or not. Like, again, sometimes it's just connections and networks and being able to call somebody if you need a job or an internship or a position, and then being able to be like, yeah, I know she's a good candidate because of this deal that she did, or because of how she communicated with us, or maybe it was an email pitch. I had a few other girls who want sales careers after, and so they used NIL as being able to create their pitches and email brands and kind of treat it like a mini sales incubator in a way. And they text me all the time and email me back and be like, we're super thankful for how much you poured into us, because it helped us with the next step. And same thing, I have student athletes that are in the pros who, again, sometimes you're a brand, so it's being able to grow your brand even when you do move on to the pros. And so some of them text me and they're like, hey, just because of all the content that they were able to create while they were in college, they can now do that on their own when they move to the pros, and it saves them money sometimes. And one guy texted me and he was like, I don't have to hire a marketing manager because I can do my own marketing. And I love that for you. So there's so many skills and so many things that they can take out of this space. Again, it goes back to that preparing champions for life motto that we use. If you take NIL, however, whatever it is you want to take from it, there are so many things you can take from it that can last you well beyond your days at Baylor.
So you mentioned something just barely. You said it was a student athlete that was in your office a lot. To pull back the curtain for the audience, Haneen texted me. It was like, "Hey, can we push it back? I have some student athletes in my office right now." One that just shows how open and how hands-on you are with all the student athletes at Baylor. So I want to give you your props there. When athletes are in your office and you're having those conversations with them, and you shared it a little bit about it. What are those conversations like? Are you looking over marketing plans? Are you helping them answer pitches?
Mm-hmm.
Are you helping them, go back to a brand and be like, hey, I like this part. I don't necessarily like this part. What are those conversations that you're having with your student athletes?
Yeah. A mixture of all of that. Some are in my office because we're working on email campaigns together of like, hey, I want to go work with Lululemon. So what do I need to email Lululemon? Some of them I have one girl that I met with earlier today. She has 6 different campaigns going on right now. And so it's really helping her manage all of those campaigns and making sure she's on time and up to date, and making sure she has her products. She has her content briefs. She understands when she needs to post. So for her, we were scheduling all her posts, but also too being very strategic too. You don't want everything to come off sponsored. So for her, it was like, okay, you have all these campaigns coming up. We need to add some things in the middle so it's not back-to-back campaigns. But then also too of just, okay, social media is a really big piece of this. I work with social media, like our student athletes on their social media plans and strategies. And I had a girl yesterday who was like, hey, I need to flip my demographic. So how do we do that? So it's okay. She needed more Texas-based followers. So it's like, okay, what can we do? What social media pieces and trends can we pick up on to grow that piece? The guys that were in my office earlier, they have a few different, bye week is next week. So they have a few different campaigns, and all of them were like, hey, what do you need us to do? What do we need to do? What time? So they were being super proactive, which I love that, of thinking during the bye week, what are things that they can be doing when football's not going on? So kind of a wide mixture of different things when they're in my office. And some, I have it blurred, but I keep a little beverage cooler and snack cart. It's a little thin right now because they've ran me dry. So I'm keeping it very hidden right now while it's empty. But sometimes they just come in and hang out. I think one of the cool things is just I have this open door policy of just come in, whatever it is you kind of want, we can sit there and talk about. If you just need somebody to lean on, if you're just over academics, or if you're just, hey, I just need an ear. I have such an open door, and they love that. And just sometimes they'll just come in to talk. I somewhat take that as an opportunity to be like, hey, have you thought about this? Or maybe sometimes in conversations, I've had that happen before, where a softball student athlete was just in my office hanging out, and she had mentioned that she needed to go buy this hair product. And I was like, hey, have you maybe tried to reach out to them instead? Like, you buy their product a lot. And she was like, I didn't think about that. And I was like, so we pulled up the website and we were looking for contacts, and then we pitched them, and they responded back, and they had been paying attention how many times she had tagged them. And they were like, hey, actually, we would be interested in this. And it stemmed from just her sitting in my office, just having a regular conversation about how she needed to go shopping for this hair product. And I was just like, hey, how about we actually start reaching out to them? You buy their products a lot, so you'd be a good brand ambassador for them. So sometimes it's just, I like to use it as kind of like a come on in, and maybe sometimes I can sneak some NIL pieces in there sometimes, but just a wider range of different things that they come in. Sometimes it's, hey, NIL Go is another piece to this process now. So sometimes they just need help of being able to read their contract or figure out, hey, what are my deliverables? Or so really everything under the sun that you can imagine, they're in my office asking, and I'm helping them out in any way, shape, or form.
That's incredible. And I think, and that goes into the next question that I want to ask you. It sounds like these student athletes are, they're on it, right? They get it, they understand it. Yeah. Is that something that, these athletes understand when they get to campus, or is this a conversation that you have? Is there a seminar that you guys walk them through? Yeah. Like what does a Baylor student athlete go through as it relates to their NIL when they get to campus?
Yeah, typically no. Most of my student athletes, when they get to Baylor, and that's crazy that we're still saying this in 2025, don't know how to start. And it's not a cookie cutter answer for every single student athlete. Everybody's different. Everybody has a different social media demographic. Everybody has a different following and a different engagement rate, different sport, different interests. So it's not really one answer that can be applied to every single student athlete and work. So I think when they get here, we will have orientations with our student athletes where I'll talk about NIL and the different things they can do from them. And then if they want, they can schedule one-on-one meetings with me. And some have them weekly, some have them bi-weekly, just depending on their schedule. But then also what we have here that's unique to Baylor is our NIL development program. I call it NIL Excel. It's 25 student athletes that are selected. They can apply for the program. And I really created that program again because one of the biggest questions I get when they get to campus is, how do I get started? And so we created that program so that it could kind of serve as an incubator for our student athletes for NIL of like, hey, you're going to do this program for a semester and you're going to learn every single piece to NIL there is, content creation, social media, pitching, everything, and walk away from that semester having a good base and having deals under your belt, having some contacts, having some networks and connections that you can go back to. I bring people from all over the country to come talk to that group. And when we launched it last semester, I didn't really know how it was going to work. And so many student athletes applied to that program where now we're kind of discussing if 25 is enough. But I wanted to keep it small because, again, I wanted to be very hands-on and make sure that every single student athlete walks away with something. And it really helps to kind of give them, again, serve sort of like an NIL incubator of, hey, you're going to have all these different things that you're going to learn this semester. And after you're set, you're ready to roll. Some will still come meet with me. And I have some who will just text me their updates and I'll be like, I am so proud of you. But they're just rolling on their own. But it stems from them doing that program and having the tools and having the resources. And that's what I'm big on here when they get to campus, of doing that education, meeting with the teams and meeting with them when they first get here, whether at freshman orientation or new transfer orientation, meeting with them to be like, hey, we have the resources and the tools to help you. If this is something you want to do, not even from a deals and a partnership stance, like if it's social media and marketing, that's a huge piece to this space too. That if you don't care about working with brands, but you want to grow your social media, how do we do that? So it's really putting the different resources and tools through this space that they can do, and kind of letting them roll from there, depending on how it is, whether it's meeting with me individually or if it's just team meetings that we're doing. Some of my student athletes kind of, if it's from one team, we'll get together and be like, hey, can we all meet with you? And we'll just sit there and kind of network together and do a whole bunch of different things. Or through that development program of, if you just, again, and I love it because you get every single type of athlete in there. And it's great to see, a football player working with an acrobatics and tumbling student athlete, and, different freshmen to sophomores to the seniors, some that have done NIL and some that have never, and then being able to share their experiences together and being able to help one another. It's such a beautiful thing. And those sessions are supposed to be 1 hour. They're never an hour. We're in there for 2 to 3 sometimes, because they're engaged and they're asking. And definitely one of the cool things at Baylor that we have. But I think just having the resources for every single student athlete, regardless of their sport or classification, and being able to make sure that they have everything that they need to succeed in this space.
I find it really interesting that you use the word unique, because in my research, I kept writing down the word unique. And I had an instructor in college once who said, he said, if you have to say something is unique, it's not unique. But in this case, I feel like it's an exception to that rule. And what I want to ask you about is, when you and I first spoke, you told me something about the unique NIL opportunities that are associated with the programs that are unique to Baylor, like equestrian. And I know we just mentioned tumbling. Can you tell us a little bit more about those that are specifically unique to Baylor?
Yeah. So obviously, equestrian is a very niche sport. Not everybody has an equestrian team. I've been lucky to now be at 2 schools that have an equestrian team. But again, in my opinion, those teams are so equipped to excel in this space because they're such a niche sport. Nobody can rock cowgirl boots better than an equestrian. We can get football guys or women's basketball girls to do it all day, but nobody truly embodies it better than an equestrian because it's their sport. It's what they embody. It's what they're competing in. So there's perfect things that line up with some of those niche sports that are so unique to them that they can capitalize on that. Yeah, can another sport capitalize on? Sure, but it's just not a fit. So it's getting them to see their value too in this space. Acrobatics and tumbling is another one, very small program and very niche too. Baylor's one of, I think, 10 schools that have that program. And so really, again, getting them to see their value of, they come from gymnastics, cheer backgrounds, they come from all different types, done everything under the sun, but it's getting them to also be like, hey, you have a place in this as a very niche sport. People, you have the opportunity to educate brands on what acrobatics and tumbling is. And a lot of my girls will do that. And the brands actually love it because they'll come to me and be like, hey, I didn't know anything about this sport until I started working with your girls, and I love it. And it's truly, actually, if you've never seen acrobatics and tumbling, you should. It's so fun. I didn't know what it was prior to getting to Baylor. But again, there's so many just unique pieces to some of our programs that they can capitalize on and really build off of. So it's, for my job is helping them see that value and then letting them run wild, in which they've been great here at doing, and being able, again, especially when it comes to equestrian, of being able to work with different, saddle companies and ranches and different farms and, horseback. So one of my girls is doing, we have a horseback riding company out here in Waco. She's partnering with them to promote the horseback riding. And I'm like, that's great, because that's actually what you compete and do. But you're showing it in a probably more relaxed setting than your sport. So it's getting them to see that type of value and everything. every single sport is unique. So it's getting them to be able to see that uniqueness in them and be able to then figure out how they can use that, but also grow their sport too. Like acro and tumbling, the deals that they have done have brought so many eyes to that sport. And the more and more they do, it keeps growing the sport. We're seeing that play out with a few of the others, women's soccer. The deals that they're doing are very much helping grow the sport and grow more recognition for them as well.
So I want to shift this to the brand side, because I think you just mentioned something that really piqued my interest. On the brand side, you said you have this company that had no idea about acrobatics and tumbling, right? Like, what misconceptions did they have, or what hurdles did they have to get over? Did they just not think about working with a student athlete, or was it a acrobatics and tumbling student athlete that they didn't think fit into their brand?
Yeah, it was pretty much that. That brand had primarily worked with football players and basketball players. They didn't even know acrobatics and tumbling was a sport until one of our girls reached out to them and was like, actually, this maybe fits a little better into our campaign. So a lot of it is just, hey, there's more than those two programs. And I think sometimes, again, that's hard because from a media standpoint, that's sometimes what they always see publicized. But like, there's so many sports programs, we don't have them here in Baylor, but you have swim teams, diving teams, cross country is another underrated sport, track and field, so many other programs that aren't just football and basketball. And I think sometimes brands forget that, but also don't, again, to a certain extent, is that they forget it, or the student athletes just from those teams think because I'm not a football or a basketball player, I have no space in this. So it's getting the brands to understand that, like, hey, there's different sports. There's a lot of different programs that might fit for your campaigns a little better. But also, too, I think sometimes it's just realizing that following isn't necessarily everything in the sport from a brand standpoint of like, hey, I have student athletes who maybe have 700-800 followers, but guess what? All 800 of them are super engaged, and that's great from a brand standpoint. So sometimes it's getting them to understand following isn't everything, but also I have student athletes who, again, different parallels. Some are at 100,000 followers and don't create the best content, and I have some that are at 1,000 who create movie level content, and it astonished me like every time I've seen them post. That's value back to you. So sometimes it's not just seeing the following number, but seeing kind of like, do they have an engaged audience? Do they create good content? That's brand value at the end of the day back to you. So it's getting them only to see, again, that sometimes maybe the biggest names or the biggest followings aren't the best ROI. And so maybe trying something with a smaller creator or a smaller, student athlete from a different program. And in most cases, they come back. Like, perfect example in the acrobatics and tumbling situation, the brand came back and wanted more acro student athletes because the girl did really good content. In my opinion, I think she probably did it better than their football guys and their basketball guys. And so, again, it's just getting brands to sometimes see outside of those sports, but then also, I think it's also to educating brands that these are student athletes. I think sometimes they like to treat them like influencers and creators and very much cookie cutter briefs, because again, those are what their jobs are, but these are student athletes. So sometimes educating the brands on like, hey, this is a student athlete, right? Some things, can we be that cookie cutter? Completely, but also give them free creative freedom. Like, these student athletes can showcase so many things for you in their lives, especially if they're going to do like a get ready with me or a day in a life content. You've got to let them be creative and run wild, because they can do that for you, but also understand they're student athletes. These are not their full-time, roles. And so being understanding of just realizing they have academics, they have sports, they have games, they travel a lot. So sometimes just being understanding also too with them, but you're going to get really good ROI because they have great engagement rates because of that logo and that brand that they're tied to. They're always in the spotlight. So it's great for brands that understand that, but that brands that also can give those student athletes creative freedom as well.
I want to dig deeper a little bit on that answer, just because I thought it was so great. So what does that education, excuse me, what does that education look like? Is that you helping the student athlete like build a pitch to open their eyes? Or is that conversations that you are having, like we'll equate it to the equestrian side? Are you having the conversations with these local companies that are like, hey, Baylor Equestrian is open for business and we know that you would love to have them and this is why?
Both. Both of us reaching out to businesses that we feel like there's really good synergy of being like, hey, to your point, Baylor Equestrian is an option for you of like, hey, we see that you do a lot in this space. Have you thought about partnering with an equestrian or a tennis player, and opening up that side? And also too, on the flip side, when I'm working with student athletes, of being able to see that, like being able to have them maximize on the pieces that they're not realizing. Like again, if it's an equestrian that's not realizing what are some niches that she can be in, helping her see those. And then kind of a lot of them will keep them very much in the loop of like, hey, this brand emailed me this, or hey, this business has this concern or whatever. What do you think? And so it's being able to then step in and educate sometimes with them, but also getting the student athletes. A lot of my student athletes just sometimes understand, if they're working with me all the time, how to respond back. So it's kind of twofold of one, educating the businesses of just being like, hey, you can work with student athletes now. Again, for so long that was forbidden. So it's kind of reimagining the industry again of like, hey, actually, no, all of our student athletes are open for business, not just select ones, all of them. And in what capacity too? I think I get that question a lot of like, what can we do with them? Well, let me tell you, you could do social media, you could do, an event, you can do an appearance. What is it do you want? And I always tell every business that of like, use that. This is marketing. So it's like, what do you want to market? More in-store traffic? You want more of a social media presence? What is it as a business that you're wanting? And from there, we can really craft the campaigns to be whatever it is you want using the student athletes. If you need more in-store traffic, how do we do that? Is it maybe if it's a restaurant, and I'm giving too much sauce away now, but if it's a restaurant, do we create some special, item that's tied to a student athlete and they're promoting it? And are we doing a rev share cut? I think that's also the other piece. Businesses think that they need to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars with student athletes. That's not the case. I have so many student athletes, perfect example of what I listed off earlier, where she just loves this hair product. And for her, just getting the hair products every month from the business is great. She doesn't want any money. She just wants her hair products every month. That's it. There's so many student athletes like that where they're just like, hey, I just want free coffee, or I just want free food, or hey, just send me this hoodie every month. It doesn't need to always be cash. And I think sometimes businesses don't realize that that's a big piece to it. And sometimes you can just make it like, again, going back to that restaurant example, it could be a rev share cut of like, hey, all the business that they're going to bring you in for this special item of the month, 20% goes back to that student athlete or whatever. So a lot of different things that, again, the business just helping them just figure out what it is they want, we can make that happen using student athletes and vice versa, or student athletes that want to work with businesses, figuring out, like I had a softball girl this week in my office who she's obsessed with these little nutrition gummies. She orders them all the time. So we went on their Instagram and I saw that they had a new gummy. It was an immunity gummy. And I was like, hey, okay, that's our opening right there. They have a new gummy. We can just go email them, be like, hey, I was on your Instagram and I saw that you have this new immunity gummy. I already love your everyday wellness ones. I would love to work with you guys on this new launch. I guarantee you the brand wasn't even thinking about using student athletes to promote their new launch, and now they're thinking about it. Again, so it stemmed just from her being like, hey, I really love this product, us doing some research on it and seeing that they had a new launch, and then giving them an idea that they maybe weren't even thinking about with that launch. So kind of both sides. And that's the fun part for me, is just figuring out, again, what makes the most sense.
What percentage, and now I might be putting you on the spot here, what percentage do you think of the athlete specific deals come from proactive outreach versus like inbound opportunities?
Honestly, probably like 80%.
Oh, wow.
A lot. And I think in my experience sitting in this space from day one, they have to put their foot out first. They have to kind of do the outreach themselves first. And from there, it starts to kind of pick up after a few campaigns. But again, it's because they're redoing somewhat their social media a little bit, where, again, you're going from posting maybe baseball all the time to now baseball and campaigns. So previously, if a brand looked at your social media, all they saw was baseball. So
Yeah.
they wouldn't really know if you could do a deal, right? Like if I give them my product, are they going to be able to promote this? I
Hmm.
don't know, because all I'm seeing on your social media is baseball.
Yeah.
And so to a certain extent, that outreach for student athletes is super important because they have to put their foot out first, right? They have to show that they can do this. Otherwise, a brand's not going to know when they go look at their social media. So I would say 80% comes from them doing outreach themselves first. And then really once they start to do multiple campaigns and now they're diversifying their social media, now like in reference that same baseball player, if they go look at his social media, okay, yeah, he just did this deal, he did this campaign, I see him doing this reel. Okay, I can visualize me as a brand. If I give him my product, I can see myself on his page. So then that's how that outreach is kind of, again, how you start to get that inbound, but it takes you doing that outreach first
Hmm.
and getting a few under your belt. And most of my student athletes who kind of start to get multiple campaigns eventually will start to get inbound on their own, but they've got to put themselves out there. Because again, how is a brand supposed to know, especially from, a student athlete standpoint? It's so new.
Yeah.
Some brands aren't going to realize. But it's also, again, your social media is your NIL resume. So it's like, let's build up that resume. Again, the same way you're going to go, if you're building your regular resume, the same way you're going to apply for internships and have jobs to add it to that resume. Same thing with NIL. You're going to reach out to brands. You're going to do outreach so we can build up your social media. So that way you can start, eventually you're going to start getting those inbound requests and campaigns on your own. So very much 80% of it is really just the student athletes doing, looking at campaigns, pitching campaigns, and just putting themselves out there first. And then eventually, over time, it's always resulted in more inbound for them.
That's absolutely incredible. And it leads me perfectly into the next question and the next topic that I want to talk about. Okay, so now that the athletes have put in so much work, right? You've broken it down with them, identified this brand that they like, found a product launch, the athlete's written the pitch, they've sent it, they've said yes. What then, if anything, what is the university doing or what's the athletic department doing to then amplify not just this specific campaign, but then to show its other partners like, hey, our athletes, again, they're open for business.
Yeah, we very much love promoting our athletes and what they do. Every deal we, amplify, our student athletes. And sometimes it's not even if it's tied to a deal. We just amplify the social media pieces that they're doing. We
Mhm.
had an acrobatics and tumbling girl was in my office. She did this really cool trend, and we just came in using our channels and collabed with her on it to help amplify it and boost her social media because we understand we have our social media accounts that we can also leverage our brand to
Mhm.
help our student athletes help grow their brands. So there's a lot of different pieces on that front, but also same on the deal standpoint of like, hey, we can help bring some more eyes on this using our channel and using our page. Like for example, our quarterback did a deal with Nike. We came in and collabed on it and amplified it and have been promoting it ourselves behind the scenes. Through, in venue and some other pieces that we can do from a Baylor
Mhm.
standpoint to help put more eyes on that deal in our student athletes. But also it's great because recruits can see that too. Like, hey, Baylor really values NIL. We can see that. Like if you go, whether you're in our games or not, like perfect example, one of my linebackers is partnered with the Children's Hospital this football season, and we have his ad play in venue, and our recruits see that. And it's great because it gives them, hey, this is cool. They're showcasing this off. They're showing this off. I would love this to be me.
Mhm.
But also just the ads we play. And then there our promotion, we highlight our student athletes and all the cool things that they're doing in our, game notes, everything. We talk about our football game notes I have sitting on my desk here. There's a section that talks about NIL and talks about all the things that our student athletes have done. And it says like, hey, one of our players gifted Yeti coolers to our whole team last semester. And so people look at our game notes and you're going to see all the cool things that our student athletes do. But you're going to see it in venue. You're going to see it on our social media and all of our communications because we prioritize it here and we want our student athletes to know here's resources. And again, even for our own, not only just for the public. Perfect example, I had a student athlete that was paying attention. We had a read play at a volleyball game and she was like, hey, I didn't know that. And she texted me afterwards and she was like, hey, during halftime, I heard this. Can I do this? And I was like, yeah, You can. And so sometimes it's also our student athletes being able to also kind of see some of the things we're doing through our own brands and through our own channels of promoting other student athletes. But then the public also too being able to see it's a huge priority for us, but also sometimes too of a business being able to be like, hey, this business did this with this student athlete. How'd they do that? And we've had that happen multiple times too, of like a campaign or something we posted or collabed with one of our student athletes on and a business season. It's like, hey, how can I work with a men's basketball player? Here's how. And so it's just, it's great to see. It's something we value here in our student athletes. Again, my biggest goal is regardless if you're a year at Baylor, 2, 3, 4, however long, that you have resources and tools, but also understanding you have a brand and we're going to use our brand to help with yours. And we're totally fine with doing that.
That's absolutely incredible. And I feel like you and I could probably talk about this for another podcast, but I want to be very conscientious of your time. So these last couple of questions are kind of more of our lightning round.
Okay.
But what's one trend that you're seeing right now that you think is really going to matter or come to bigger fruition in the next 2 to 3 years?
Content creation. The student athletes, I don't think you saw this at the very beginning, but now I'm starting to see that trend pick up with student athletes. They are prioritizing content, but brands are also prioritizing content more and more. We're in the era of social media. That's not going to stop. That's going to continue to grow and grow and grow. And what I'm seeing is a lot more student athletes prioritize content creation, not just like a post, but actual content series, like actual podcasts that they're doing on their own. That's only going to grow the next 2 to 3 years. And seeing them come up with all these crazy cool ideas, like I just am astonished sometimes. That's going to grow tremendously, but especially now with revenue sharing and the house settlement of everybody being at a cap, and the only way you get over that cap is through brand deals and partnerships. The student athletes that understand content are going to be the ones that are easily able to get those brand deals and partnerships, because that's what every business should prioritize, is content and good content, regardless of how many followers that student athlete has. And again, that's what I'm seeing a lot of, and I think that trend is only going to pick up more and more in the next few years.
What is the most exciting or your favorite deal that either you've been a part of or that you've seen in your time in the space?
Oh God, I have so many. One thing I've prioritized is every single deal our student athletes do, I'm there. Whether you're doing a shoot or you're doing an event, an appearance, whatever, I'm there supporting you. So I've seen so many cool deals. It's so hard for me to pick one, but I think I'm going to go to one that was very special for a few different reasons. While I was at Oklahoma State, our starting quarterback came to me one time and he was like, hey, I want to do something around mental health. He had a very interesting football journey, went through some injuries, didn't know, had a really great freshman year, and then injury happens, doesn't really know if he's going to go back to being a QB1 at a Power 4 again. So suffered a lot, went through his own mental health journey. And when I met with him, it was something that he truly wanted to be an advocate for, which is rare that you see, especially with football players, because we expect them to be, these big, tough brutes. And it's very vulnerable to talk about mental health and to talk about, your journey and the things you've been through. You don't see that a lot. You don't see those guys opening up because, again, they're supposed to be these, their sport is very violent. I mean, they're hitting one another and they're tackling and all these other pieces. So it's different when, you sit there and listen to somebody's journey about how they struggled. So he wanted to be a huge advocate for that. And so we kind of worked with him over the last few weeks, and we partnered with the Mental Health Lifeline of Oklahoma to do a campaign talking about mental health. So it was the Oklahoma State quarterback, and we actually added the Oklahoma quarterback at the time because we felt like this campaign was going to be very powerful. Because again, getting football players to talk about their journeys and to talk about the trials and tribulations that they went through. It's not just all glitz and glamour. Everybody would love to be QB1 at a Power 4, but it comes with a lot of struggle and a lot of pain and a lot of, like in this quarterback's case, a lot of crying and a lot of emotions that the public doesn't see. And so that campaign was super special to me because of what it stood for. But I saw the impact that it had on our people too, of being able to see, our quarterback talk about his struggles. I had other student athletes at our institution come to my office and be able to open up. And I spoke with we had a sports therapist at Oklahoma State, and he would tell me how much that campaign impacted some student athletes. But we could also see it in the public of, the comments and being able to see them and, everybody opening up about their stories. And all it took was our quarterback wanting to open up about his. And so the impact that it had, to me, is super special, and it's one that I love. I love all of them equally, but that one, I think just the impact of it and being able, again, to showcase off our student athletes in a different limelight, especially on the football side. It's not something you see often, is why that deal is super special to me. And I'm thankful that I had a quarterback, shout out to him, that was very open about talking about his journey and allowed for a deal and campaign like that to happen.
That's absolutely incredible. All right. I hate to switch to something frivolous after something so serious and impactful, but what's your can't miss spot in Baylor? The next time I'm headed south on 35 and I'm passing through Waco, where's a spot I can't miss?
The silos. Absolutely. You've got to stop at the silos if you come through Waco. It's not overrated. And if you go, Pop's lemonade, best lemonade you've ever had. It's one of my go-tos. I always have it during game day. They do these big buckets. You can catch me on the sidelines with my Pop's bucket. Love their lemonade, but the silos is a must. You have to stop there. It's one of the coolest things, and you wouldn't expect it to be in a town like Waco, but definitely the silos. And it was one thing that I think when I got to Baylor, everybody told me, and I was like, okay, sure, cool. I spend too much time there. I'm always there. So if I'm never in my office, you can catch me at the silos.
I love it. Okay, last question. Where can people find you? Where can people connect with you?
Yeah, so you can just connect with me on LinkedIn. It's just Haneen Rashwan, or you can email me. It's Haneen_Rashwan@Baylor.edu. I love connecting with people and talking about this space. It's something I love, but I haven't done it for long, but it seems like I've done it for long because it's such a new space, but I've also done it from the very beginning and been in it from the very beginning. So love connecting with people and just listening to everybody's journeys. And if I can ever be a resource to anybody, I just love to always be a shoulder that you can lean on.
That's it, Haneen. Thank you so much. And sick 'em.
Sick 'em Bears. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much again to Haneen Rashwan from Baylor for joining us and telling us about her work. I especially enjoyed the part of our conversation where we discussed brands and working with student athletes. If you'd like to connect with me, Sterling Randle, feel free to do so on LinkedIn or Twitter. Also, check out nilnewsstand.com for more episodes. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can also find out more about digital sport by Hot Paper Lantern at hpldigitalsport.com. You can also connect with us on LinkedIn, and you can connect with NIL Newsstand on LinkedIn. Hope you have a fantastic day, and we'll see you again next time.